The giant space station looked like a floating crystal city. Station Nexus Prime had been the center of the galaxy for 3,000 years. Ships from hundreds of different worlds came here every day. Some looked like metal fish, others like floating rocks, and a few glowed with their own light. Inside the station's main hall, thousands of alien beings sat in special chairs made for their different bodies. Some had tentacles, others had wings, and many had skin that changed colors when they talked. They were the Galactic Diplomatic Forum, the most important group in the galaxy. At the back of the hall, in a small section marked New Members, sat the humans. They had only been part of the forum for 50 years. To most aliens, this made them babies. Some alien races had been here since the station was built. Ambassador Dongmin Park straightened his blue uniform and checked his notes one more time. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. Next to him, his deputy, Nari Kim, tapped her fingers on her datapad. She was younger, with short black hair and a worried look on her face. "The vote will happen in 10 minutes, Nari whispered to Dongmin. "Do you think they will help us?" Dongmin looked around the hall. Most of the aliens were not even paying attention to the human section. They were busy talking to each other, or looking at their own devices. "I hope so," he said quietly. "We have to hope so." The problem was simple but deadly. New Bizin, one of humanity's biggest colonies, was going to die. The colony had 2.3 million people living on a planet that orbited a dying star. Scientists had discovered that the star was about to release a massive wave of radiation. This wave would destroy the planet's atmosphere in just 3 weeks. The humans needed help. They needed ships to move their people. They needed equipment to find them a new home. They needed the resources that only the Forum could provide quickly. Enough, but the Forum moved slowly. Very slowly. A deep sound filled the hall. It was the signal that the session was starting. At the front of the room, a tall, thin creature that looked like it was made of silver mist floated above the speaker's platform. This was Velthara, the current chair of the Forum. Her species, the Ethereal Collective, had been part of the Forum for over 2,000 years. "The Forum recognizes the emergency request from the human delegation," Velthara said. Her voice sounded like wind through metal pipes. "Ambassador Park, you may present your case." Dongmin stood up and walked to the center of the hall. As he moved, he could feel thousands of alien eyes watching him. Some looked curious, others looked bored, and a few looked annoyed that their regular business was being interrupted. "Honorable members of the Forum," Dongmin began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall sound system. "I come before you today, not as a representative of humanity's ambitions, but as a voice for 2.3 million people who will die if we do nothing." He pressed a button on his control device. Above the hall, a huge holographic image appeared. It showed New Bizan from space, a blue and green world that looked peaceful and beautiful. "This is New Bizan," Dongmin continued. "For 30 years, it has been home to families, children, scientists, and farmers. They have built cities, grown food, and created art. They have lived and loved and hoped for the future." The image changed. Now it showed the colony's star, angry and red, with massive flares reaching out into space. "But their star is dying," Dongmin said, his voice getting stronger. "Our scientists have confirmed that in exactly 21 days, a stellar flare will strip away the planet's atmosphere. Every person on New Bizin will die unless we can evacuate them immediately." A low murmur went through the hall. Some aliens leaned forward in their seats. Others seemed to be having their own conversations. "We are not asking for charity," Dongmin said. "We are asking for the emergency aid that the Forum has provided to other member species in times of crisis. We need transport ships, temporary shelter, and assistance in finding a new world for our people." Nari watched from the human section as Dongmin finished his presentation. She had helped him prepare for weeks. Every word had been chosen carefully. Every fact had been checked and double-checked. But as she looked around the hall, her heart sank. Many of the aliens looked like they were already making up their minds, and not in humanity's favor. A creature that looked like a walking crystal mountain raised one of its arms. This was the representative from the crystalline hegemony, one of the oldest and most powerful groups in the forum. "The human request is touching," the crystal being said, its voice sounding like rocks grinding together. "However, we must consider the precedent this would set. Humans have been forum members for only 50 years. Most emergency protocols are reserved for species that have been members for at least 2 centuries. Another alien stood up. This one looked like a giant squid wearing a metal suit. "Furthermore," it said, "the human colonies were established in star systems that our surveys marked as potentially unstable. They chose to ignore our warnings. Why should the forum bear the cost of their poor decisions?" Dong Min felt his hands shake with anger, but he kept his voice calm. "With respect, honored members, no one could have predicted this specific stellar event. Our colonists followed all safety protocols. They are not responsible for a natural disaster." "Natural disasters are a risk of colonization," said another alien, this one looking like a giant butterfly with too many eyes. "Species must be prepared to handle such problems themselves. That is the nature of galactic expansion." The debate continued for 2 hours. One by one, alien representatives stood up to explain why they could not or would not help humanity. Some said it was too expensive. Others said it was too dangerous. A few said that humans needed to learn to solve their own problems. Nari took notes, but she could see that the decision was already made. The forum was going to let New Bizin die. Finally, Velthara called for the vote. The holographic display above the hall lit up with numbers. Each alien could vote yes to help humanity, no to refuse help, or abstain to not vote at all. The numbers appeared slowly: 847 against, 12 in favor, 3 abstentions. Dong-Min stared at the display for a long moment. In the silence, he could hear his own heartbeat. Behind him, Nari stood up from her chair, her face pale with shock. "The motion fails," Velthara announced. "The forum will not provide emergency aid to the human colony of New Bizin. The session is concluded." As the aliens began to leave the hall, chatting among themselves about their dinner plans and tomorrow's business, Dong Min remained standing in the center of the room. His people were going to die, and the galaxy's response was to go home and have a meal. Neri walked up to him. "Sir, what do we do now?" Dong Min looked at her, then at the empty seats where the aliens had been sitting just moments before. "We go home," he said quietly. "We tell our people that we are alone in this galaxy." That night, in his small apartment on Station Nexus Prime, Dong Min sat at his desk and wrote a message to Earth. It was short, just 7 words. "Prepare the Exodus protocols. We are leaving." He sent the message, then sat back in his chair. Outside his window, alien ships continued to come and go from the station, their lights twinkling like stars. The galaxy was vast and full of life, but for humanity, it had become a very cold and empty place. The forum had made their choice. Now, humanity would make theirs, and the galaxy would soon learn what it meant to ignore the youngest species in the room. The morning alarm rang through Station Nexus Prime like it did every day for 3,000 years. Alien beings woke up, ate their breakfast, and prepared for another day of galactic politics. But something was different. The human section of the station was empty. Security Chief Morduk, a lizard-like creature with green scales and yellow eyes, stared at the open door of the human embassy. Inside, the rooms were completely empty. No furniture, no computers, no personal items. Even the wall decorations were gone. "When did they leave?" Morduk asked his assistant, a floating jellyfish creature named Blippo. "No one saw them go." Blippo replied, his tentacles waving nervously. The security cameras show nothing. One moment they were here, the next moment they were gone. Mordek walked through the empty rooms. The humans had not just packed their things and left. They had removed everything, including items that were built into the walls. It was like they had never been there at all. On the main desk in what used to be Ambassador Dongmin Park's office, there was a single piece of paper. Mordek picked it up and read it. The message was written in 17 different galactic languages. Humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Diplomatic Forum, effective immediately. We return to the stars as we came, alone but not helpless. Nari Kim, Deputy Ambassador, in the forum's main hall. Chaos was starting. Alien representatives were arriving for the day's session, but they were all talking about the same thing. The humans were gone. Velthara floated above her platform, trying to call for order. Please, honored members, take your seats. We have important business to discuss, but no one was listening. A crystal being from the hegemony was arguing with a tentacled creature from the Aquatic Confederacy. A gas cloud entity was flashing angry colors at a robot representative. Where did they go? Someone shouted. What does this mean for trade agreements? Called another. Can they just leave like that? Asked a third. Velthara had been alive for 800 years, but she had never seen the forum in such disorder. Species that had barely noticed the humans yesterday were now demanding answers about where they went. Meanwhile, far from Station Nexus Prime, Commander Jae-Sung Lee stood on the bridge of the human ship Determination. He was a short, muscular man with scars on his hands from years of military service. Around him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. Status report, Jae-Sung said to his communications officer. All human ships have left forum space, sir, the young woman replied. The evacuation fleet is moving toward the new Bizon system. We have 18 hours before the stellar flare hits. Jae-Sung nodded. While the forum had been debating, humanity had been acting. Ships from every human world were racing toward new Bizon, not just military vessels, but cargo ships, passenger transports, mining vessels, and even private spacecraft. Every human who owned a ship that could fly had volunteered. On New Bizon itself, Dr. Yoon Choi was running through the colony's main research center. She was a small woman with quick hands and bright eyes. Behind her, teams of workers were loading equipment onto transport ships. Take everything, she shouted over the noise of the loading machinery. Every computer, every sample, every piece of research data. If we cannot save our world, we will save our knowledge. The colonists had known for weeks that they might have to leave. While their leaders had hoped the forum would help, they had also prepared for the worst. Every family had packed their most important belongings. Every business had backed up their records. Every farmer had saved seeds from their crops. This was not panic. This was planning. Dr. Yoon watched as her life's work was loaded onto ships. She had spent 15 years studying the unique life forms that had evolved on New Bizon. Some of these creatures existed nowhere else in the galaxy. If she could save them, they might find new homes on other worlds. Doctor, called one of her assistants, a young man named Wu Jin. The transport ships are almost full. We need to go soon. Yoon looked around the laboratory one more time. She had been happy here. She had made discoveries here. But happiness and discovery meant nothing if everyone was dead. Let's go, she said. As the human evacuation continued, something strange was happening in the galaxy's markets. On trading worlds throughout forum space, prices were starting to change. The first sign was rhodium-7, a rare metal that humans mine from asteroid fields near dangerous pulsars. Other species considered these mining operations too risky, but humans had somehow made them profitable. Now, with human ships gone from the asteroid fields, the supply of rhodium-7 was dropping. Then came problems with quantum crystals. These were used in faster-than-light communication systems. Humans had been the only species willing to mine them from the radiation-soaked moons of dying stars. Without human miners, the galaxy's communication networks began to slow down. On the trading world of Nexus Minor, a merchant named Kelptar was looking at his computer screen with growing worry. Kelptar looked like a walking tree with too many branches, and he had been trading rare metals for over 200 years. "This cannot be right," he said to his business partner, a rock-like creature named Boldar. "Human trade only makes up 3% of galactic commerce. How can their absence cause such big changes?" Boldar made a grinding sound that was his species' way of laughing. "Because humans trade in things no one else wants to touch. They go to the dangerous places, the radioactive places, the impossible places. They find value where we see only death." Back in Forum space, intelligence officers were trying to track the human ships. But something impossible was happening. The humans were disappearing. Talvarin, the Forum's chief intelligence coordinator, was a pale blue creature with 6 arms and 3 eyes. He had spent his entire career tracking the movements of every major species in the galaxy. But the humans were like ghosts. "They were here," he said, pointing to a star map, "and then they were not here. Our sensors show nothing. Our spy networks report no human activity. It is as if they have simply vanished." His assistant, a nervous creature with fur and big ears, looked confused. "Sir, maybe they are using unknown technology?" "Impossible," Talvarin replied. "Humans are new to space travel. They have been in the galaxy for less than a century. They cannot have technology that we do not know about." But even as he said it, Talvarin felt doubt creeping into his mind. The humans had always been different. While other species followed established trade routes and used approved technologies, humans seemed to enjoy doing things the hard way. They built colonies in systems other species avoided. They took jobs other species refused. They asked questions other species had stopped asking long ago. What if their apparent weakness had actually been strength? 3 days after the human withdrawal, the Forum held an emergency session. For the first time in decades, every seat was filled. Species that usually sent junior representatives had sent their top diplomats. Everyone wanted to understand what was happening. Nelthara tried to maintain order, but the hall was full of worried voices. "The humans controlled critical supply chains," said the crystalline hegemony representative. "Without their mining operations, we face shortages in 17 different sectors. Their agricultural techniques were more advanced than we realized," added the plant-like delegate from the Botanical Federation. "They were growing food in conditions we thought impossible." "And their ships," said a worried voice from the back of the hall. "They had ships in places we never expected. Deep space, radiation zones, even the edges of black holes. What were they doing out there?" As the debate continued, one thing became clear. The humans had not been as small or unimportant as everyone thought. They had been like a key piece in a complex machine. Now that they were gone, the whole machine was starting to break down, but the biggest shock was yet to come. As the Forum session ended, every representative received the same message on their personal communication devices. It was from the humans, broadcast simultaneously across the entire galaxy. "To the species of the Galactic Forum, you chose to let our people die rather than help them live. We have learned from your example. From now on, humanity will depend only on humanity. We wish you well in your debates and committees. You will not see us again." The message was signed simply, "The Human Species." And then, as promised, the humans disappeared completely from galactic civilization. Their ships stopped appearing in Forum space. Their communications went silent. Their trade agreements were quietly canceled. The galaxy had gotten what it wanted. The humans were gone. But as the days passed and the market problems grew worse, many aliens began to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. The youngest species, In the galaxy had walked away from 3,000 years of civilization, and somehow, the galaxy felt smaller without them. 6 months had passed since the humans left the forum, and the galaxy was getting worried. Trade routes that had worked for centuries were failing. Rare materials were becoming impossible to find. Worst of all, no one knew where the humans had gone. Talvaren stood in the forum's intelligence center, staring at a massive holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots marked every place where humans had been seen in the past 50 years. But now, all the dots were dark. "Show me the search results," he said to his team. The map changed. Green lines appeared, showing the paths of forum ships that had been looking for humans. They had searched thousands of star systems. They had followed every possible route. They had even gone to dangerous places that most species avoided. Nothing. No human ships, no human colonies, no human signals. It was like humanity had never existed. "Sir," said his assistant, the furry creature with big ears, "we have a problem. The hegemony is blaming the ethereal collective for the rhodium shortage. They say the collective is hiding supplies." Talvaren sighed. This was getting worse every day. Without human mining operations, the galaxy was running out of rare metals. Species that had been friends for centuries were starting to fight over resources. "And the communication problems?" he asked. "Getting worse, sir. Without quantum crystals from human minds, the galaxy-wide communication network is slowing down. Some outer systems have been cut off completely." Talvaren had been an intelligence officer for 300 years. He had seen wars, revolutions, and the rise and fall of entire civilizations. But he had never seen anything like this. The humans had only been 3% of galactic trade, but somehow their absence was destroying everything. "There is something we are missing," he said to himself. "Something important." Meanwhile, in a star system that did not appear on any forum map, the human ship Indomitable floated in the darkness between two dead planets. The ship was huge, bigger than anything the forum had ever seen. Its hull was black as space itself, and strange lights moved across its surface like living things. On the ship's bridge, Fleet Admiral Sujin Park stood looking out at the stars. She was tall and strong, with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She was Ambassador Dongmin Park's daughter, but she had chosen the military instead of diplomacy. "Status report," she said to her officers. "All human fleets are in position, Admiral," replied her second-in-command, a young man named Taeyong. "The Deep Black Project is ahead of schedule. Dr. Bio Young's new engines are working perfectly." Sojin nodded. The Deep Black Project was humanity's biggest secret. For decades, human scientists had been developing technologies that the Forum would never have allowed. Without Forum regulations and safety committees, human research had moved faster than anyone thought possible. "And the colonies?" she asked. "All hidden colonies are secure. New Terra is producing more food than we need. The mining operations in the dead zones are exceeding expectations. We are completely self-sufficient." Sojin smiled. The Forum thought humans were weak because they were young. But being young meant being flexible. Being young meant being willing to try new things. Being young meant not being afraid of change. The humans had spent 50 years in the Forum learning, watching, and preparing. They had seen how the ancient species thought, how they made decisions, how they reacted to problems, and they had planned for the day when they would need to survive alone. "Sir," said the communications officer, "we are receiving reports from our observers in Forum space. The situation is getting worse." On the main screen, data began to appear. Trade disputes, resource shortages, communication failures. The Forum was falling apart, and they did not even understand why. "Show me the latest intelligence." Sojin said. The screen changed to show a recording from the Forum's emergency session. Alien leaders were arguing, blaming each other, demanding answers that no one had. The humans were more important than we realized, said one alien leader. They were doing work that no one else could do, said another. But they were so small. So new, said a third. How could they be so important? So Jin watched the recording with interest. The forum was finally starting to understand, but it was too late. Humanity had moved beyond their reach. Admiral, said Tae-young, Dr. Bo-young wants to speak with you. She says it is urgent. Dr. Bo-young Shin appeared on the screen. She was a small woman with wild hair and excited eyes. She had been working on the Deep Black project since the beginning. Admiral, we have done it, she said, barely able to contain her excitement. The fold drive is working. We can travel between star systems without using hyperspace lanes. The forum will never be able to track us. So Jin felt a chill of excitement. Hyperspace lanes were controlled by the forum. Every ship in the galaxy had to use them to travel between stars. But if humans could travel without the lanes, they would be truly free. How is this possible? So Jin asked. We have been studying the physics of space itself, Dr. Bo-young explained. The forum's scientists said it was impossible, but they were wrong. We can fold space-time, create our own pathways through the universe. We are no longer bound by their rules. As Dr. Bo-young spoke, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. The communications officer looked up from his station with surprise. Admiral, we are receiving a priority message from the Deep Space Observatory. They have detected something at the edge of the galaxy. What kind of something? So Jin asked. Unknown. Sir, but it is big, very big. So Jin had been expecting this. The Deep Space Observatory was humanity's most secret project. While the forum had been looking inward, humans had been looking outward, beyond the galaxy itself. Put the message through, she said. The screen changed to show the face of Dr. Min-seo Han, the chief scientist at the observatory. She looked excited but also frightened. Admiral, we have made contact, she said. The entities we call the Silence. They are real. They have been waiting for us. So Jin felt her heart race. For years, human scientists had been detecting strange signals from the void between galaxies. The forum had dismissed these signals as natural phenomena, but humans had kept listening. Are they hostile? So Jin asked. Unknown, Dr. Min-seo replied. But they are interested in us. They say we are the first species in this galaxy to be capable of reaching them. They want to share knowledge. So Jin looked around the bridge. Her officers were staring at the screen with wonder and fear. Humanity had always been alone in the universe, or so they thought. But now it seemed they had found something even the ancient species of the forum had never imagined. Prepare the fleet, so Jin said quietly. We are going to make history. As the Indomitable and its escort ships prepared to leave for the edge of the galaxy, so Jin thought about the forum. They were still looking for humans in the known galaxy, never imagining that humans had already moved beyond it. The youngest species in the galaxy was about to become something entirely new. It started with a simple disagreement about rhodium-7 prices between the crystalline hegemony and the ethereal collective. But without human mining operations providing a steady supply, both species were desperate for the rare metal. Words became threats, threats became actions, and actions became war. By the end of the week, half the galaxy was fighting. Talverin watched the reports coming in from across forum space. His intelligence network, which had tracked peaceful trade and diplomatic exchanges for centuries, was now reporting battles, blockades, and betrayals. How did this happen so fast? He asked his assistant. The humans were like glue, sir, the furry creature replied. They traded with everyone, worked in places no one else would go, and solved problems no one else could solve. Without them, everything is falling apart. On the main screen, battle reports flashed by. The Aquatic Confederacy had attacked hegemony mining stations. The Botanical Federation was blocking food shipments to the collective. Even the peaceful Harmony worlds were building weapons. "Sir," said another intelligence officer, "we have strange reports from the Outer Rim. Ships appearing and disappearing without using hyperspace lanes. Energy signatures that do not match any known technology." Talvarin felt a chill run down his spine. "Show me." The screen changed to show grainy recordings from automatic sensors. Dark shapes moved between the stars, appearing for a moment and then vanishing. The shapes were too distant to see clearly, but they were definitely ships. "Could these be human?" Talvarin asked. "Impossible, sir. The technology required for this type of travel is far beyond what humans possessed when they left." But even as his officer spoke, Talvarin was not so sure. The humans had always been different. They had asked questions other species had stopped asking. They had gone places other species avoided. What if they had been more advanced than anyone realized? Far from the Forum's wars, President Minho Quan stood in the command center of New Terra, humanity's hidden capital. The planet was a marvel of human engineering, transformed from a dead rock into a living world in just 6 months. Minho was an older man with kind eyes and steady hands. He had been elected to lead humanity during their exile, and he took the responsibility seriously. "Report," he said to his advisors. "The Forum is tearing itself apart," said Defense Minister Qihuan Yu. 12 major conflicts have started in the past month. Trade routes are collapsing. Communication networks are failing. "And our people?" Minho asked. "All safe and accounted for. The hidden colonies are thriving. Our new technologies are working perfectly. We are completely independent from Forum systems." Minho nodded, but he did not look happy. He had hoped that the Forum would learn from humanity's departure. Instead, they had proven that they were even more dependent on others than he had feared. "Sir," said another advisor, "Admiral So Jin is requesting permission to reveal our presence to the Forum." Minho considered this. For months, human ships had been moving through Forum space unseen, gathering intelligence and watching the chaos unfold. The time was coming when humanity would need to make a choice: remain hidden forever, or return to the galaxy as something new. "What does the Admiral propose?" he asked. "A demonstration, sir. Something that will show the Forum what we have become." Meanwhile, in the void between galaxies, Admiral Sojin Park stood face to face with something that should not exist. The entity called itself a member of the Silence, though it had no physical form that human eyes could see. It appeared as a shifting pattern of light and darkness, speaking directly into the minds of those who encountered it. "Your species is interesting," the Silence said without words. "You adapt quickly. You think in ways the others do not. You have potential. What do you want from us?" Sojin asked. "Not want. Offer. Knowledge. Power. Understanding. The others in your galaxy are old, set in their ways. They have stopped growing, but you you still change. You still learn." Sojin felt a chill of excitement and fear. The knowledge the Silence offered was beyond anything humans had imagined. Technologies that could reshape matter, energies that could power entire star systems, weapons that could crack planets in half. "What is the price?" she asked. "No price. Only responsibility. The galaxy will need guidance. The old species cannot provide it. They have proven this. But you could." As the Silence spoke, Sojin understood what was being offered. Humanity could return to the galaxy not as refugees seeking help, but as guardians bringing order. The choice was theirs. "I need to speak with my government," Sojin said. "Of course, but do not wait too long. Your galaxy is dying. Soon, there may be nothing left to save." Back on New Terra, President Minho received Admiral Sojin's report with a heavy heart. The decision he had to make would change the course of galactic history. They are offering us the power to rule the galaxy, he said to his advisors. Not rule, sir, said Defense Minister Q-Huan. Guide, protect. The Forum has proven they cannot govern themselves. Someone needs to bring order. Minho looked out the window at New Terra's cities. Humans had built all of this in just 6 months, working together, solving problems, adapting to challenges. Maybe they were ready for a bigger challenge. Send a message to Admiral Sojin, he said finally. Tell her to prepare the fleet. It is time to go home. Every Forum world, every space station, every ship in the galaxy received the same transmission at exactly the same moment. It was impossible. The galaxy's communication networks were too damaged for such a broadcast. But somehow the message reached everyone. The image that appeared on every screen was Admiral Sojin Park, standing on the bridge of a ship that looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Behind her, officers worked at stations that seemed to bend light itself. People of the galaxy, she began, her voice calm and strong. This is Admiral Sojin Park of the human Deep Space Fleet. 6 months ago, you chose to let our people die rather than offer help. You dismissed us as young and unimportant. You were wrong. On Station Nexus Prime, Velthara watched the message with growing alarm. Around her, alien representatives were panicking, demanding to know how the humans had managed to broadcast to the entire galaxy. You told us we were too new to matter, Admiral Sojin continued. You said we needed to learn our place. You were right about one thing, we did need to learn. But not our place in your system. We needed to learn how to survive without you. The image behind Admiral Sojin changed, showing massive human fleets emerging from folded space around critical Forum worlds. The ships moved in ways that defied physics, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. For 50 years, we watched you debate while problems went unsolved. We watched you choose comfort over progress, tradition over innovation, procedure over life. You taught us that your civilization values bureaucracy more than people. Tolvarin stared at his screens in disbelief. Human ships were appearing throughout Forum space, but they were not attacking. They were just there, waiting. We have learned to thrive without you, Admiral Sojin said. We have found new sources of energy, new ways to travel, new technologies that your regulations would never have allowed. We have made contact with beings beyond this galaxy who have shared knowledge with us. The image changed again, showing the construction of New Terra, the success of the hidden colonies, the massive industrial operations and systems the Forum had declared uninhabitable. But we have also learned something else, Admiral Sojin continued. We have learned that isolation is not the answer. The galaxy is too big, too complex, too dangerous for any one species to face alone. You proved that when you fell apart the moment we left. On trading worlds throughout the galaxy, alien merchants stopped their arguing and listened. The wars that had been raging for months suddenly seemed less important than the words of this human admiral. The Galactic Diplomatic Forum has failed, Admiral Sojin said. It has failed because it was built on the assumption that age equals wisdom, that tradition equals truth, that consensus equals progress. These assumptions are wrong. Chief Negotiator Hyen Wu Choi appeared on the screen next to Admiral Sojin. He was a thin man with sharp eyes and a quiet voice. The Forum can continue to exist, he said, but it will operate under new rules. Decisions will be made based on evidence, not politics. Resources will be allocated based on need, not influence. Species will earn representation through contribution, not through the accident of being old. The terms were simple but revolutionary. The Forum's ancient voting system would be replaced by a merit-based council. Trade would be regulated by practical need rather than political favor. Most importantly, the galaxy's defense would be managed by those who had proven they could actually get things done. You have a choice, Admiral Sojin said. Accept it. new system and continue to be part of galactic civilization, or reject it and face the consequences alone. The threat was clear. Human ships controlled the galaxy's critical supply chains. Human technology could make or break trade routes. Human weapons could destroy entire fleets. But more than that, humans had proven they could survive and thrive without anyone else. The Forum could join the new order or be left behind entirely. The response was immediate and unanimous. One by one, alien leaders accepted the new terms. The ethereal collective offered to serve as humanity's junior partners. The crystalline hegemony promised access to their most protected technologies. Even the proud aquatic confederacy agreed to follow human leadership. On New Terra, President Min-Ho Kwon received the reports with mixed feelings. Humanity had won, but at what cost? They had become the very thing they had once sought to join, the rulers of the galaxy. "Sir," said Defense Minister Q-Hwan, "the transition is going smoothly. The new Galactic Compact is being signed by representatives from every major species. And the resistance?" Min-Ho asked. "Minimal. Most species are too dependent on the Phi resources we control to object. Those who do object are." Reconsidering, Min-Ho nodded. The galaxy would be stable now, but it would be stable under human rule. The species that had dismissed humanity as too young and weak were now begging for humanity's protection. "What about the Forum itself?" he asked. "Disbanded, sir." The last session ended with a formal recognition of the Galactic Compact. Velthara signed the documents herself. As the new order took shape, the galaxy began to function again. Trade routes reopened under human management. Communication networks were rebuilt with human technology. The wars that had been tearing the galaxy apart simply ended as human mediators imposed practical solutions. But the real change was deeper than politics or economics. For the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy was governed by beings who valued results over process, innovation over tradition, efficiency over comfort. The ancient species learned to adapt or be left behind. The young species found opportunities they had never imagined. And humanity, the youngest species of all, discovered that sometimes the greatest strength comes from being underestimated. The galaxy had watched in fear as humans abandoned the Forum. Now they watched in wonder as humans rebuilt it from the ground up. The age of the ancient species was over. The age of humanity had begun. And in the darkness between galaxies, the Silence watched with approval as their newest students took their first steps toward a larger destiny. The galaxy was no longer alone in the universe. And that, perhaps, was the most important change of all.